Our class today it will be about ethical use of AI, which is basically the right way to use AI, the responsible way to use AI. Okay? So cover topics like bias detection, privacy, transparency, come across ways like deepfakes and ethical checklists and the way AI should be used and all that. So what we are going to cover, just like I mentioned, so we'll talk about detecting bias in AI. We'll talk about uh, privacy protection. We'll talk about transparency in AI and understanding deepfakes, which means we understanding things that are generated with AI, be able to recognize. So navigating cultural bias, then apply. So this is more about just giving you knowledge on how you work with AI, how to be a responsible AI user, or how to use AI in a responsible way, so you can get the most output without being biased, also risking security and all that. Okay, so first to discuss why ethical AI. So, Katila,
Yes.
yes, yeah, just before I continue, you really understand what is ethical AI like? You really have an understanding of what we're talking about.
I took it from the word ethical itself. I believe everywhere else, anywhere, everywhere
Mhm.
else in any bit be ethics. And yeah, it's just a way of whatever that you are doing with AI, not harming or misleading or
Mhm.
misinforming the community or the people or the audience, if to say it like that.
Yes. So since you have an understanding of what we're talking about, yes, it's about using AI in the right way without harming anyone or without being biased, without disrespecting somebody's culture or without giving wrong information and all that. Okay, so we'll move to um, why ethical AI really matters. So it actually matters because uh, we can actually be harmed if we don't. We can harm someone or we can get harmed if we don't use AI in an ethical way. Okay, so this is a way a little AI can harm AI system. So we have facial recognition bias. Okay, so if an AI is highly trained recognize faces of, let me say, white. Mostly just the data is from the people that are, let me not be racist, but mostly white skinned men or women. So an AI will be biased. So will be biased. It will not be accurate. It will be less accurate when it's recognizing people that are that. So this is a research which was done by the AI, MIT, which is one of the best institutions in America, which is the best in the world. So they found that commercial face recognition system had an error rate of up to 34.7% for darker skinned women versus 0.8% for lighter skinned men. This is, has to do with it has to do with the way the AI is trained. So basically they had more data for white, let me just say white, light skin. So this could risk misidentification of people. So for example, somebody is wanted. So when and fake recognition software is used to identify that person, you might get an innocent person detained or something that they didn't do. And then another one, which is a system, which is for loans. This one is a real system they use basically for loan. I don't think we use it in Namibia. I'm not sure, but it's an AI credit scoring system, which actually gives credit depending on how it identifies the profiles and all that. So the AI was actually was actually biased because I don't know the way it was trained. It gives higher interest rates for black applicants over white applicants with identical credit profiles. So it's biased. Maybe it was done purposefully or it was. trained in the wrong way of understanding things. So it's not ethical. So it actually harms. Actually, people that are going to be harmed here are going to be the plague applicants. And then it also goes against human rights and all that, which is supposed to be equal. And then we have what we call deep fake and misinformation. This one is going to be a problem. This is a big problem. So in 2024, a deepfake video of a Kenyan politician was shared widely on WhatsApp, falsely showing calling for violence. It was viewed over 2 million times before being identified as fake. So if you identify fake uh, AI generated videos, it's not easy if you don't understand it. You didn't, if you are not, of course, if you are not studying with us, you don't understand, you understand how this AI are generated. But for a regular person to understand this AI, it's not easy. So many people get deceived from misinformation, who get misinformations, who get deceived, even get scammed because they got information that is completely not right, which is actually generated by AI. You can generate an AI video today of the president of Namibia claiming that maybe you can say they have engaged in the oil industry with the federal. You can just create a video, maybe they're at home talking about how they changed in the oil and gas, how they are planning to turn the country into a dictatorship. So you can create something like that, and she would deceive almost 500,000 people because people will not think when they see this, what the most important thing they are going to think about is the information that comes with it, not really how the information, where the information is coming from, who created the video, and how was this video even. And they won't look at that. So this is it will be a spread of misinformation. And then the other one is cultural bias and global norms. I think I talked about bias in the previous class when I said most of these AI models are trained mostly in the English language using the Western data, which is probably in the US. So if you it is going to give you information mostly, I would say 90% of the information is going to use or is trained from is going to come from the Western country, which is probably the United States of America, the European countries. And that's where cultural bias actually comes in. Because if you are in Namibia, you don't have the same culture with the West, because you are from Africa. And if you are from, let me say, from Australia, from Japan, China, we have cultural difference. So it will struggle to understand our culture, respect our culture, and all sort of things. So the data that you are going to get is going to be probably less accurate and then less cultural appropriate for Africans instead for other other countries as well. So basically, when you are doing it, you ask AI to do a research for you, maybe a financial report or anything. You will notice that mostly to use examples basically from the location it will use mostly. If you don't give it an exact prompt, basically it will hallucinate and it would rely on the data that was being trained on. So it will use locations that are in America, it will use currency that is an American currency, depending on the way the AI model is trained. So this could actually harm people, because be very harmful, because the AI is saying things that you're not supposed to say. That is inappropriate. So it can be very harmful to our culture. We talk about how it enters and how to fight it, which is the bias in AI. How does bias enter and how do we fight it? So as I was talking about training of data, so bias is not an accident. It's actually a design failure. So it's when you are training AI, it's actually you are designing all the data that the AI model needs to know. So if you fail to include like cultural difference and all that from all over the country, all over the world, which means you failed to design this AI to be unbiased, which means you are making the AI to be biased basically by you, the one that is training the AI model. So it's not an accident. Okay. So let's talk about the first one, which is training data. So if the data used to train the AI models um, is over represents some groups and under represents others, the models inherit those imbalances. So if you include a certain group of people and exclude others, that's what I was saying. The AI is only trained on the Western data Western cultures and all that, it's going to be imbalance. It's not going to understand us, especially from Africa and other countries. It's not going to give appropriate way of, let me say, culturally, it won't be appropriate in the way that it responds to us or the way that it interacts with us. And then it's not going to understand that only uses English, never trained on our language. So it's going to be biased towards the West or towards us because it can only understand the West, but it's trained to understand them better because it's trained on their data, their language as well. So the other bias that comes with AI is that just prompt. So I was also talking about, I was also teaching prompting the other week, I hope we all know, which is actually just an input that you put in an AI model so you can get a desired output. So this can be in the form of a text, and that text can be in the form of a question or a problem and all that. So if the prompt if it's not for example, let me just say the prompt is not really specifying or giving more descriptive. It's not being more descriptive. The AI will rely on the Western data, as I was saying, to be more biased because it's not give it more information. So the words you choose in a prompt can prime the AI towards stereotyped, unfair, or cultural inappropriate responses. When you are prompting, you must make sure you do understand that AI doesn't know everything, doesn't know our culture, doesn't understand where we live, doesn't understand who you are. So you must let it know. The other one is feedback bias. So AI systems are trained with human feedback, absorbs the biases of the people giving the feedback, often from limited demographic. This has to do as well with training, but the feedback that given to this AI doesn't represent the whole demographic of the people actually from all over the world. So the output bias, this is just the output that AI, um, uh, like sometimes when you prompt, the same prompt, you different prompt, but you get the same output because the the AI has it's a pattern of producing an output, basically because it just understands simple things, doesn't understand, it's limited, doesn't understand the way it's supposed to produce, like to avoid bias outputs as well. So an example can be an AI risk assessment tool flagging more loan applicants in particular claim window for the same income. If the whole system is biased, the output can also be biased. So if the output is biased, so it can also affect, let me say it can also affect hiring, all sort of things. So you get things that are not actually accurate, are not usable, are not uh, culturally accepted and all that. Okay, so let's continue. So we are done with bias in AI. So let's move to privacy in AI, protecting people's data. So of course, this is also part of the ethics of AI about making sure the data is protected. Since AI is trained on data, mostly AI is trained on data, it wants data from you. The more data AI has, the more better it becomes, so that it's not only that bias. So with data comes security concerns. It can be people's data, it can be real data that can be just used by AI to do a lot of things, can be used for harmful other things. So when AI is collecting your data, it has to be you have to be responsible for it. You have to know uh, what data needs to be given to this AI. You can't give it just any data, like your personal data, then all that. So it says privacy is not about having something you hide. It's about having the power to control your own stuff. Okay? So this was a script from Britannia Zubov, which is from the age of surveillance capitalism. You can take it out if you want to read more. So let's look at these four components of privacy in AI. The first one is data collection risk. The second one is storage risk. The third one is AI training risk. And the fourth one is legal and consent risk. So data collection risk is actually when you give AI a lot more data than needed. So it creates a security liability and erodes user trust. So when AI knows a lot about you, when you give it more information, when you are texting to an AI, it already knows where you are, it already knows what is your usual routine, what time do you wake up, and all that. It makes you feel like somebody is monitoring you, maybe. Because the AI already knows. Maybe it just creates that user trust. And the second one is storage. Okay. So when you have too much data with AI, like the AI has access to the data, but that data that you give to the AI, it has to be stored somewhere. So when the when the data is stored somewhere, it's going to be a bit of a risk because it can be leaked. The information can be leaked and all that, the users and a lot of information can be leaked. Which is, for example, you might give a financial report, but somebody might maybe from the AI to create some more give an example financial report. It might use that AI. I mean that that was already there and already belonging to someone. And then the third one is AI training risk. AI training risk is it's actually it's, when you're training an AI model. Let me just say most AI models usually use the data that you actually, let me just say it trains from the information or the way you interact with it. That data is used to train the AI models. So when I use that data, it becomes a risk because it can be based on real data that belongs to someone. Excuse me. Or it can just be a risk because instead of improving the AI model, it becomes as well biased as well, or it can leak the information to the user as well. It can expose it because it's basically from the data is coming from the user as well. So legal and consent risk. So Namibia's POPIA equivalent framework aligning with the Electronic Transaction Act requires informed consent for personal data use. So whatever you do with data for uh, with people's data when you're training with AI models, you need the consent because you are using somebody's personal data. So if you're gonna create your own AI models that is data belonging to people legally, I mean, it should be illegal, but it requires a consent. It requires you to have legal access or uh, legal documents that you're actually using people's data to train your AI model. Let's talk about transparency and explainability because people deserve to know when AI is involved. So when you're creating an AI video, this the caption that says generated with AI, people know this is. I think TikTok has implemented that. So anything we do on TikTok that has AI on it, TikTok, it will detect that it's AI and then it will add that generated with AI caption so that people can know already. So what transparency means is to disclose AI use. So meaning tell users, clients, or the instructor when AI generated assisted content is made. So when you are doing anything that has to do with AI, whether in listens or anything you are doing, you need to let everyone know that you use AI to assist you generated content or whatever you're doing. Explain decisions. So when AI takes a decision affecting a person, you have the right to know why. And then you also show your work, a document, you document your prompt, your refinements, and your ethical checks. So when you were prompting with these AI models and all sort of things, you can actually document the initial prompt, what changes did you make, and what ethical checks did you do, so that we make sure the output is actually not biased, actually doesn't have any privacy concern, and then and all that, and then knowledge limits. So you have to be honest about the AI, what the AI doesn't know. Don't overstate the AI capabilities. So when you have created something like an agent or an AI assistant, you have to state to the user that the AI doesn't know anything about this. So AI cannot do this. AI cannot generate documents. AI cannot and all sort of things. So cite the sources. When is to first verify inside the original source. And this one is mostly for students when they are doing their assignments and research and all that. So you basically have to find out where the information is coming from, where this AI is getting this information. So you cannot say ChatGPT saying what or Cloud say this and this. Was cannot does not work like that. They got it from somewhere. They say source. Because this AI rely on data. They don't have the power to know everything just like that. So you have to find out where the source is coming from. So here we have a practical example here. So if you are coding, which means you are maybe generating a project or so, so you can comment out and say this code was generated with Cloud 3.5 sort, and the prompt was write a Python function to get a calculator and all that, and then we review and test it by your name in order. But this can also be found. Just talk about this when we'll be mostly into application development and web development. You can also put it in documents where you can write a full report. Uh, I mean, where you can write a report with AI, and then you also have to add that this report was drafted with AI assistance cloud. All facts were independently verified, and then it was reviewed by your name and all that. Okay. You can also do that when you're prompting. So when you're prompting, you can say that this output will be reviewed by a qualified professional before using the medical and all that, so that the AI will also understands that you are being transparent. Everything will be reviewed and all that. So let's talk about deepfakes, AI misinformation. This one is going to be a headache because AI is getting better and better. It's much stronger, especially when it comes to this deepfakes and misinformation. Because an AI can generate a video that definitely you will not tell this AI. So it's not easy to control. It's not easy to know is it actually AI. Because they are mimicking how human behaves, how human think, how human do things. And now you're in the ability of computer vision, which means they can be able to generate videos, images, which is even at a level where you'll not be able to tell this is generated by AI. So these were problems, especially in politics. And AI will be able to generate fake videos of politicians making statements that they have never even think of saying in their entire life. Okay. So I've seen an incident where this happened, and I've also tried it out. I think this AI is called lip syncing, which means it takes a video of, let me say, Donald Trump, then it just play around with the mouse. Whatever you say, it try to match it with the mouse. Then there's also what we call voice clone, which actually replicates somebody's voice, which is very great. So it replicates somebody's voice on the way they talk, their tone, and all that. So once you add that to the video, then I think you have somebody already, a politician already talking, the voice. You don't even see anything where it's written there. So once you see that, it's already missing from it. Whatever comes out is already going to be missing from this. Then voice cloning uh, actually resonates somebody else, which is also a scale, can be a scale. It can also be used for scaling. It can also be used for politics. It can also be used for a lot of things mentioned way that they made or that with you also there's some type of threats which can be also be hidden disinformation, which can just be fabricated news article, which is nearly impossible to distinguish by reading it. And then we have what we call scientific identity fraud. So AI generates faces used to create fake ID documents. This one is very common. Fake passports and all that. This 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 identity can even have a step for you can generate somebody's copy of an I to change their name, but that document was already let me just say it was already certified by the police. So you just change the name. So you just change the name on your name, you change the ID number to be something else. Submit, you apply for something for a law, whatever you apply or you use it for. They use for any illegal things, and nobody will know. Then there's something called WhatsApp forwards. which is misinformation is spread faster on messaging apps, which I actually came across maybe this week like three times. Three times. So this can be used for scamming, phishing, and all that. And can actually then it can just aggregate like uh any information about maybe and it's giving away 7 gigs of data and all that. Then it can send it to multiple people as well. And then when people press on it, collect data and all. So let's go to the evaluation part, which is how to critically evaluate content. The first thing you need to do, everyone needs to do is check the source. It's a link with a website. Let's check what link is it. Is it really coming from the official website? It is a video. Who posted the video? Who posted the original video? Maybe we have to check where it's coming. From that place, is a video on NBC. If it's supposed to be on NBC, yeah, then we'll really verify that this is real. It is no way NBC, no way the platforms where on the platform, other media platforms that are well known and trusted, then just know that it's AI. So this is what I'm talking about the search for collaboration. It means you search for two other independent sources reports. If it reports the same things, if it doesn't, then okay, and look for metadata where was the image, video original taken. So we do a bit of practical about it. Basically, when the video is taken contains information which we call metadata, so which you can actually verify, check where that video is originally taken. And the other one, the most important thing is that you have to examine inconsistency. This AI annotation. If you look at the video or the image, there's something that you know that this is a thing. It doesn't really make sense because it's going to be unnatural linking, it can be lighting, mismatches, the audio there, or just the overall video, the image, just maybe the location setup doesn't seem to exist and all that because AI is so imaginary. Then you might be able to tell this is AI. So the other things you can do is just to easily use Google reverse image search, video and deep web scanner for videos that are generated. I think there are more. You can also do a bit more research. So Google reverse image search and InVid and deep web scanner for videos. And then the other thing is AI critically. What the potential reason this content could be fabricated. Or that you can also use AI to like, use questions about why this content will be created, be fabricated. You can just upload it. Let's talk about cultural bias in the Namibian economy. So let's talk about cultural bias. So this area is actually trained and understand the way the creator did, or let me just say the person responsible for the development actually want it to be. So most LLMs are trained on in English language by Western or using Western content or data, which means their default assumptions, example, the recommendation reflects of those culture. It's not Namibian. So if you want to be to reflect the Namibian side of things, you're going to have to work a lot. You're going to have to give it data and all that before it is actually understand us better. It's already English and it's asking Namibian mostly we understand that our language is better than English language both for culture. So let's look at this scenarios. So if you ask an AI about tenant right and often default to US or UK law. So which differs from the Namibian property law and communal land tenure system. So if you're asking data, you must always specify. Also ask AI to recommend treatment or calibrated to average body weight and existing systems in high countries. If you're asking about medical treatment to actually incorporate like high income, like the way like complicated healthcare systems from high income. So this system don't depend on our culture on that. So the language that this one's straight to the point. So this is our ethical tips. So when you're doing AI, you have to apply this when you're dealing with AI. For buyers, if you want to avoid bias, you must have a checklist. You must have a checked. I mean, you must also check your prompt for the generalities or stereotypes about groups, regions, and culture. You will very clearly describe, specify group things or all that. Avoid giving guidance for the AI to decide for you. Okay. So the other one is, does my training data example set represent diverse demographics, including rural and median, and all that. And then if I test the AI output for consistency across different users for private interest, you must always, am I using anonymous or synthetic data, or am I using your real ID number or data of all that? Don't use your real information. Don't use your real ID number. And also, if it's a user data to secure, where the data of that LLM is being stored. Maybe just an LLM that was created to just collect people's data for other process. It is being stored by a trusted company, like Google. For example, we already know it's going to be stored in Google. Server system is actually going to be maybe say expand our say, but also to ask a users given informed consent plain language for how their data is used. So if that this one is by developing an AI system, you must make sure that the users have to agree to the danger. That's why you see when you're signing up for AI maybe platform, the thing check that agrees to the terms and conditions. While I know somebody not even with the transparency. So AI is disclosed and all that. If you disclose information about you're using AI, if I verified AI generated fact against original, that the output clear gateway human review or professional advice is needed. Very straightforward for transparency. I think we've come to, I think this is going to be the end. Will be the scenario, which is an AI-powered microloan app for Namibia. This is something that we are building. This is a startup roots on AI model that accesses loan eligibility for young Namibian entrepreneurs. The model is trained on historical bank loan data and uses an LLM to generate risk scores and job recommendations. So this one is trained on the data coming from bank historical bank loan data. So, but it's going to be used for entrepreneurs to take loan money, borrow money from the bank. Whatever business we are doing, the bank will have the history of how that business, how that business generates money, average, like all that, and then we scores, then avoid the risk. Tell them do well. So this is one of what we can do with AI. Obviously, the historical data detects past discrimination going to be biased because the president is not tell us the way it was. And him can. And then everything is changed. Then how talking about privacy and security, about applicant data stored without encryption. So we are talking about this one a huge problem. But we are talking about baby details. You are applying for a loan. We're talking about IT numbers, statement, all those financial documents. But if somebody gets hold of it, can't really is that there be no explanation given for rejection if somebody applies for a loan and doesn't reject it, doesn't explain. This has to be transparent and so that people can know why was the application rejected so that the AI should be able to tell why the application was rejected. Transparency, AI advice given is fact becomes AI manifesto. So this one is going to be so what you're going to do is that well, you're going to an AI manifesto like an audit. So it means you're going to write the personal ethical manifesto 200 words, setting your commitment as an AI developer. We are going to have an address, transparency, and all that. I think you can go through all these assignments. If you have any issues, please let me know. So it's going to be a week 3 assignment. You apply to your immediate project that is from week 1, state what you learn, because it's just a manifesto. Then one specific Namibia ethical risk you are committed to addressing. And then you create an ethical audit, which includes a people doing that, that audit using these weak techniques. Test people on the tool Not any bias or privacy or transparency issues spotted. Rewrite at least one bias prompt with an improved version. Okay, then you say find in the community forum, then we discuss it. And that is all from me, and I hope you guys, Mrs. Katida.
I just have one question. Remember
Mm-hmm.
when I think it was week one or week two, we had the assignment was you must go on any LLM of your choice and write
Mm-hmm.
down something like what are the trends in your course that what are the trends and what problems can you solve and what can you build with AI to solve this problem and make money? I've noticed that most of the people I've noticed that in almost everything in all the LLM that I use, I've gotten
Mm-hmm.
something like a loan detection risk or something like that, like an app that is going to detect the of giving
Mm-hmm.
money to the individual, something of that sort that I'm also seeing here in the class. I was asking because how do I make the AI not to give the same answer? Like how do I differentiate? How do I make sure that my output is a bit unique from the rest of everyone else? Because if everyone right now put in that, they'll get the same result. You might be working on a project right now, but someone else is already maybe done with that because you understand they are like the LLM keep on giving that same answer. How do I maybe make make the output a little bit different?
I think if you want the output to be a bit different, you have to use agents and LLMs. These are going to be agents. It's going to need more information from you. It's going to go online and search for a lot of information and all that. It's not going to really rely on the data that it already has. So it will go online and check what is actually trending, what is happening, and all that. I suggest you use maybe Perplexity if you want the best the best results from most of this. Instead of using just like a normal AI LLM, when you maybe use an agent.
Okay, what agents are there available that I can use?
You can use you can use Perplexity and you can use Minimax.
Max. Okay, fix it. Okay,
Mhm.
I'm going to download that.
All right.
Okay, thank
So
you. I just want to let you
Minimax. I usually use Minimax um, if I'm doing some of the projects and I don't want it to be more like everybody else.
know. Okay, okay,
Yes, are we
okay.
together?
Thank you.
All right. All right. So from here, please you can do your this assignment, and then I think it will take you about 2 hours. We also use AI and all that. But this is just basically you trying to apply the practical knowledge of ethical AI. So just go through the assignment, and then if you have any problem, you can just let me know in the group. Are we together?
Okay, thank you. Yes.
All right. For me, I think that is all. Those who didn't attend, I think if you want to go through the class, it will also be uploaded. The recording will be shared in the group as well. All right, from me, that's all. Enjoy your weekend.
Bye. Bye.